Grand Rising Life Force, and welcome to Speak Pro Radio. My name is Stefan Rao, more commonly known as Tank, and this is the Life Force Network. And in case you're not familiar with the Life Force movement, the Life Force is a movement of like-minded people dedicated to changing the world. In other words, we're gathering people from the four corners of the earth so that we can make the world more like the one that we've dreamed is possible. And all of us have a contribution to make to that. So whether you like it or not, you are part of the same life force movement. So today we're going to be talking about a bunch of really amazing things, including quantum leaping. And we're going to talk about, we're going to break down a little bit the World Situation Report, or at least share some of the topics that were discussed recently on UnitedNetwork.Earth with Kimberly and Gogan. Which I highly recommend anybody should watch for themselves because nobody else is breaking it down quite the same way. However, we feel it's very important to repeat these topics. You know, the whole idea of the way a movement really evolves and becomes something great is when people are repeating the ideas and they're broken down in such a way that makes sense. And we kind of shift I think it's the collective imperative, right? What is our behavior? What does it look like if the world isn't what we've always known it to be? If the world has already changed behind the scenes, what should be the result and what do things look like? Now that we're walking into a world where, you know, in a lot of ways, a lot of this is stuff that we've heard prophesied about in a sense, right? It's not exactly prophecy. A lot of prophecies are doom and gloom and apocalypse, right? But there is prophetic visions about a new heaven and new earth state, right? Which I think we're actually creating right now. And we're starting to realize and come to an awareness about who we actually are, right? And there's a great book, I think it's called The Prophet, where the author says, all of your power is in your awareness of your power. So realizing how powerful you are as a human being is one of the greatest gifts anybody can have. So here to talk with me about this today is Lauda. How are you, Lauda?
I'm very good. How are you, Mr. Al?
I'm very good. You're hiding out today off camera.
I do apologize for that.
That's okay. So where do you want to get started today?
So, I was wondering, did you watch the situation report with Ground Command? I did not watch it yesterday. Did you happen to catch it?
I certainly did. I certainly did watch it, and pretty amazing. You want to start with want me to break that down a little bit?
Yeah. Can you just break it down just a little bit in your own words? I thought, funny enough, I was like, I was going to watch it and then I just didn't have time. So I just want to know, like, what was she talking about? Give us a little bit of a breakdown of it.
Okay, so one of the things she had mentioned on Monday was about these neurological disturbance programs that the deep state had put out, right? So these things were, I guess, causing all types of neurological issues. And ultimately, their plan, as always, was to cause us chaos, confusion, death, and harming ourselves and others, right? So she listed off, and she talked about how this could result in a feeling of anger and kind of reactionary behavior, that where you might not normally react, right? Kind of like someone being on your last nerve, for lack of a better term, right? When someone's on your last nerve, all of a sudden you lash out in a way that you normally wouldn't. And she was saying how this system was kind of designed to make people on edge and really uncomfortable. And I'm sure a lot more than that, because once you can control the neurological system, you can basically cause any type of disease or disorder in the body, which I'm sure could be very acute conditions like heart attacks and strokes and things like that, as well as a lot of little things here and there. She had described this, saying like, if, your kids do something normally, you're used to kids being kids, and you might, correct them, but you wouldn't be aggressive with them. But this might have made you feel so aggressive, like it was so much bigger than it was, right? And she was talking about that. So I thought that was a really powerful thing. We actually discussed that, you and I, because, we had some experience with that, we'll say, right?
Well,
I
yeah, a
was feeling
little
a little
bit.
bit on my last nerve about a lot of dumb things, right? Personally. So, um,
Sorry.
I said I was feeling like I was on my last nerve about a lot of dumb little things, right? Like feeling very
Yeah.
edgy and uncomfortable, right?
Well, I think also this energy that's been going around has been bringing up things for myself. I can say is bringing up things to like, hey, you got to heal it. Hey, you got to look into it, or hey, you got to, transmute it. What do you need to do with it? So I myself have noticed that, and you yourself as well. So I think it kind of like aligns with that. But it's good to know why it's happening because, I don't know about you, but many times I like to look at, ground command's reports and kind of look at it and go, okay, that makes sense now. Because a lot of times we're feeling energy and we're like, or feeling something, or something's not right, and we just don't know exactly what's going on. And then I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So basically, the reason we were feeling this way was because it was a program of the neuro. What is it? Did I catch that correctly?
A neurological disturbance program is
Okay.
what I was told. So,
And,
neurological disturbance program. So, basically, this would cause disruptions in your nervous system, and I'm sure there's more ways this was manifest, but the systems were completely suppressed, oppressed, and obliterated, from what I understand. So they can no longer do any damage. And I actually, it's interesting because the deep state has become so inept, right? They're used to being so all powerful that every time they do something, they have this like arrogance about them because they're the superior race of blah blah blah, and they think that they can just throw out some program and then they can manipulate the world any way they want. And they have good reason to believe that because for thousands and thousands of years they've had that type of control. But it was
mm,
all a mirage, really. So it's fascinating because I remember hearing Kim talk about this a long time ago, how Marduk, who was at the hierarchy of the order, right? So, like in the all seeing eye, the triangle on the dollar, let's say, right? He was at the peak of that on this earth, right? He was the head of this, right? And then next to him was Enlil and Enki. And together they kind of created this unholy trinity, right? And they kind of had the first and final say on everything. So every single system that exists, the final key to that system to make it function, to operate, to distribute money, to distribute energy, to start a war, it always laid in the hands of Marduk, right? So Marduk is actually a title, which
mm-hmm.
means the Duke of the Sea of Souls, I believe, something like that, right? It's a Sea of Souls, right? Kind of like the Holy See. Like people will call the Pope the Holy See, but the Marduk was above that. So in that seat, in the history of the earth, it has never been controlled by a human until now. And that seat now is where Kim Gogan sits, right? Is in that
Yeah.
seat. And unlike the evil, maniacal, human hating slave masters that we had, Kim Gogan is a human herself with real human experiences. So she's an advocate for humanity, right? So that's a really important piece of information to know if you don't, because we need someone over this planet where we live to be advocating for us, right? So we're not just harvested with our energy, abused, raped, beaten, poisoned, oppressed, suppressed, depressed, and just to get out of that, we need somebody who's advocating for us, right? But the
Mm.
deep state is, just a uh, gaggle of idiots who thinks that they've been given every advantage, right? So if you ever see somebody who's they're not exceptional, right? They're glorified mediocrity all day, but they think they're exceptional because they've been given every advantage in the world, right? So when you had every advantage in the world, like your water isn't poison, mine is. Your things like just I guess that's not really possible, but the air like they breathe is different, the food they eat is different, the advantages they've had, the unlimited wealth they've had access to all of these things. So you would expect you should be more
But
exceptional than the average person.
but Mister, I can ask you a question. If the things that they've been doing to us for quite some time now, wouldn't this be affecting them too? Like, you know, they talk about chemtrails, they talk about, poisoning our environment and things like that, and trying to kill us, wouldn't they be doing it to themselves?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
how?
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are affected by it in some level. I don't know how they navigate those type of things, right? But what I do know is like, if I poison your food, right?
Hmm.
I poison your wine, let's say, right? We're at dinner, I poison your wine. I
Yeah.
know not to drink from your cup, right? So
Hmm.
that advantage gives me a decisive advantage in living through the meal. So they've kind of had this uh,
So they
decisive
literally,
advantage.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So they literally don't eat from the supermarkets or anything like that.
I
They
no, I
have
mean I
their
can't be
own
that.
grown.
I can't be that specific. I don't know. I mean, do they even supermarkets? I'm sure. I'm sure, but they certainly have access and experience to unlimited funds to get food from wherever they want,
That's
and
true. Yeah.
to get food
Okay.
that's not poisoned. I mean, they literally refer to us as useless eaters, right? And because
Wow.
we'll eat anything that's put in front of us, kind of thing. And they've programmed us to do this. They put out frequencies to program us, and
Yeah.
all types of things like that.
That's
At
yeah.
one point, I did speak to people in the agencies and years ago, and they were saying how none of them listened to the radio or television because they
Really.
knew that there was frequencies being put out to program the people and whoever was listening to it. Right, so
Wow.
they didn't participate. That they knew enough to not do that. Right, so just having that knowledge would give you a decisive advantage. Right,
Yeah, that's true.
things like that. So that's one thing. So that's kind of that's this latest thing is just another example, a neurological disturbance program. Would that have affected them? I don't know. I don't know where they were launching this from or how it worked. What
Mhm.
Kim did talk about on Wednesday is she said that she listed off a series of locations from all over the world, right, from different places, from California, Wyoming, Nigeria, like all over the world. I think she maybe listed off 10 or 13 or so, and different locations where these neurological systems, disturbance systems, were set up, and they've all been disabled. And once they were all disabled, there's no longer this neurological disturbance going out. I feel a marked difference actually. So,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I don't know that I don't know if that's good or bad that I'm more prone to be influenced by that or not.
Well,
um,
I think it's the I think the thing that's happening with everyone on this planet is we're starting to feel more sensitive to the energy because, you know, as they're clearing everything, we're feeling it more and more. And so I think that's what's happening because even people that, I guess are not into this have been even saying that they felt really weird. They didn't understand. It was like it came from quite a lot of people that I was speaking to in regards to how they were feeling, like they were angry or they were getting triggered, or they just wanted to just break something and they couldn't explain it, and they never liked that. And I would just say to them, okay, just to let you know, happened to me. I felt that way. It was intense. So it's kind of cool when you start talking to other people around you and they're starting to feel the same things as well. So and then also other people felt much better as well because I did too, and so did you. But I think also people could be feeling reminiscences of the cleanup too. I think because there has to be something there that it might trigger us a certain way, and then you've got to now unravel a whole ensalada, a salad of just emotions or whatever is going on.
yeah, and I've noticed that before. Kim would talk about something, in reference to one of these systems. And I don't know if it's the power of suggestion. Like we would often recap and say, "Oh, that was what's going on," and then sometimes I would still feel hits from things, and we're constantly paying attention to and looking and healing our energy and just examining ourselves. That's scripture in the Bible for anybody out there who doesn't believe in energy. It's actually said in the scriptures, "Examine thy own self to make sure that ye be in the faith," or that you're okay, right? That your calling and election is sure, that kind of thing. So we're always doing that and kind of trying to identify, and I actually appreciate. Let me say this the right way. I don't want any more of these things. I don't want any more of them.
I don't
However,
want. I don't want.
ah,
I'm just saying.
okay, sorry. I I choose not to have any more of these exist. Okay.
Not
However, however, I do appreciate when I know what's happening because I can look at myself and be like, okay, what is this bringing up in me? Like, because sometimes
mm,
it'll force something out of you that's like, oh my gosh, that was a really deep seated
yeah,
insecurity I didn't know I had, or a fear I didn't know I had that I'm glad I
yeah,
can look at now, examine it, and heal it. Right. So
yeah.
there is an upside to feeling
Or
this way.
integrate it. That
Integrate
was
it.
the other
Yeah.
thing, integrated as well. Like, that's something I've always gone to, being a practitioner and always telling everyone you got to heal, heal, heal. I realized that, hang on, sometimes you just have to integrate it. Sometimes it's just a lesson. Like, there's nothing for you to heal. It's just you're their mirror at the time and they just yelled at you, let's just say. Or, I, I've always said about the mirror effect. So for me, like, it's all different things. And I think it's each person, it just depends.
So yeah, so Lauda talks about the mirror effect, which has frustrated me to no end at times. Okay, because now I've heard other practitioners talk about this. Like I heard Deepak Chopra talk about this one time, right? Deepak Chopra was talking about how he was at an autograph signing event, right? And someone came up and basically was requesting like 2 hours of his time, right? And he's obviously very busy, and he's like, I can't do that. And so the person flipped out on him, right? Like I guess at this live event, like where he's signing autographs.
Mhm.
And Deepak, who's I don't know, people he's probably Cabal, I don't know, but I enjoy what he had to say. He was basically like he was basically saying like, but it was really a reflection, right? Just like you talk about, it was a reflection of me. And so he had to look at
Well,
himself
no, go. He had to look at himself.
and examine that and just acknowledge, okay, like this wasn't that person's fault. This is a reflection of who I am and what I put out there. And he made some personal adjustments or healing, I guess, something like that.
Well, that's what you're vibing out, or there's something you need to look into it. So therefore, the reason why I say it's the mirror effect is because if there was everything okay in my life or whatever, this person wouldn't be irritating me. This person wouldn't be making me feel a certain way. So I like
You
self
think it's always
reflect.
that way, though? I mean, aren't some people just irritating? I mean,
Well, if they were, like, it wouldn't affect you. Like, for example, when you, like, if someone said something that you knew wasn't true, let's just say, you just knew it wasn't true. You knew you were a good person, let's just say. You just knew it, but they were like, you're a person. That wouldn't affect you. But if you had a real insecurity there, it would affect you. So what I'm trying to say is that if it arises an emotion from you, you have to look at it. For me, this is how I do it, and that's what helps me. Whenever something I don't like, obviously that's my reality at this moment. And this person in front of me is just a mirror on what I need to heal, integrate, fix, accept, grow from. There's so many different things. So that's why I say, like, the mirror effect works for me because I'm always keeping myself in check because I like to, constantly always make sure my energy, my thoughts, my feelings. I'm always trying to be the best person I can be. And
sure.
sometimes that means you have to grow. You have to experience things. And then you're like, okay, what do I need to do with this? Because this is affecting me and I don't want this in my reality. Well, if you don't want it, they're showing you. Change it. Choose something different. That's the way I see it as.
So that's a great point. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later because I do like, I really am, I'm such a believer in empowering people to change their world and
Mm,
ultimately change the world, right? That we all live in. Um, and so we're gonna talk about that in a minute. So, okay, let me finish kind of talking about. Well, let me talk about some of the other stuff. So that was one thing that came up, and then Kim talked about the deep states after their latest failure, right? Because every failure creates more desperation and fear and doubt and worry. So, good job, guys, because that's what you wanted to create. You love that stuff. So now you put yourself in that state, right? Where you're in a constant state of fear and anxiety and stress, trying to figure out how are we going to maintain control of the world, right? That's what is going on right now, as far as I can tell. So they actually tried to install a new system with the Meg V system. Okay. So the Meg V,
Meg?
MEGV, and probably more letters, but but it sounds like MEGV. Okay, I thought I had the exact spelling, but I don't. But okay,
Sorry.
so MEGV is like this. They wanted to create this kind of super AI, right? It was what they chose to use for the universal social crediting score, right? So everybody's heard of social crediting, right? They're doing it in China, allegedly, right? There's actually a show out there called Black Mirror, and you can go look at this, and they shows a future what it would look like if we had a social crediting score, right? And everybody kind of has implants, and they can see this score, right? So based on your interaction with people, based on the way they show it, like get you access to certain clubs, and you're allowed to talk to certain people, and you can increase your score, right? And then if you don't have a high score, you can't even go into certain places. You can't bank. You get punished with financially. But it's much more, much more comprehensive than that. The MEGV system was supposed to analyze every single health analytic, health measurement in the body, every single thing, everything from going to the bathroom to having a heart attack, every drink you have, anything that would affect your body in any way, and basically create a collective score of what your value is to contribute to the system, right? Now, this has been the dream of the deep state. Now, this was a big thing. There was an NSA FBI system that was like all consuming. And I believe it was working with the Azure system that was, Bill Gates' Microsoft thing. And this system Kim took down a few years ago. And it was the same thing, but it was much more, excuse me, it's probably much further along, I would imagine. Right? Because that's what they've always wanted to do. They want to have us on absolute lockdown. So basically, if you watch too much anime, they can decide this is going to make you violent. So they shut off your anime, right? Anime is Japanese animation, for anybody who doesn't know, right? Because I'm total dude. So, or if you watch, too much of the Brady Bunch, they don't want you to go, regress back in time. Or if you buy too much vodka, even if you're buying it for your job or a party, they decide, well, okay, you can't have any more vodka because you're going to be an alcoholic. They would be making decisions that you morally and independently as a sovereign being have every right to make. You have every right to consume and moderate or overconsume if you so desire. And no one should be allowed to infringe on that freedom. But what they believe is this would make a healthier population of automaton droids for all of us to do exactly as we're told, right? So that's what they want. That's the ultimate desire, is for us to just be so obedient and oppressed that we just go along. And ultimately, they wanted to basically eliminate people, right, who would think freely and disrupt the system. People who are divergent. Now, this is a very common practice with any genocide. You go back in through history, right? Like I think Mao Zedong, right after World War II, he genocided 80 million people to introduce communism in China, right? Something like that. Like it's the most absurd genocide by far, like that we have in recorded history, or at least the history we're told about, right? And basically, he went in and he eliminated first the intelligentsia, right? In other words, all the professors, the doctors, anybody who was too smart for their own good, the historians, anybody who would actually resist with an intelligent idea, they were killed off, right? Because that's what you do. You take away people that you think are a threat, whoever that might be, right? Depending on what your profession is, it could be just people of that profession, right? But anyways, with a MEG-V, this what they tried to do with the MEG-V system is similar to what this old system, not old, this the system that was eliminated a few years ago, right? Which was like an FBI, NSA, Azure combination, like super combo. That I remember Kim described it. She said it would have measured and analyzed everything. So it sounds to me like that's what they were trying to do with the MEG-V system, the way that Kim described it. It was going to analyze every single issue with your health and everything about you, and basically be the new social credit score. Okay. So then she took a jump and she talked about the farms, right? So that's one thing they were trying to do. That's been disabled, the MEG-V program. First of all, just put everybody at ease. Now, the next thing they did was she talked about was the farms. Now, the farms are basically like an offshoot of different agencies, Secret Service, where they create super soldiers. right? This is where you would get medical enhancements, where you'd get drugs enhancements. These are Jason Bourne kind of characters, right? These training facilities where you're brainwashing and creating farms of agents. And every president since president number 22 to 45. Now the current president hasn't had one because no one acknowledges him as a real president. But 22 to 45, every one of them had their own farm of super soldier agents that worked for them, right? And so these have existed, the farms, for a long time. And the other thing is they had a monetary system, which I guess funded farm activity and whatever they had to do. Um, and what they were trying to do is they were trying to get access to this farm account system, these farm accounts, which were kind of an off ledger banking system, from what I understand. Right. So like it wouldn't show up on the regular ledger. I'm sure there's a way to access the monetary system, but I'm not sure how. And Kim talked about this and said how this these were working behind the scenes and they tried to access the farmer accounts. The farm, not farmer, but farm accounts. Now I want to distinguish because if you're from the RV, in the RV, and I actually thought like maybe these are the same thing, I don't know. But there's something called the farmers claims. And these are these huge lawsuits that were brought against the government for damage that had been done on the farms. There were supposed to be trillions of dollars poured out for these farmer claims. So I don't think it has anything to do with it. Does not have anything to do with actual agricultural farming. What it has to do with though is these farms of agents. So these farms of agents, they were trying to access the system, and Kim acknowledged, like, thank you again for bringing that to her attention because she had forgot about these farmer accounts. These not farmers, sorry. These farm agents, not farmer agriculture, okay? Farm agents. So she brought this out, how they went after this. And what they were trying to do is access this and somehow connect it to a digital currency from the central banks and then connect that to the MEGV social crediting score, kind of what they were trying to do before with the NSA and the FBI and the Azure system, right, which was destroyed years ago. Now they were trying to just ad hoc, like patch it together and make a Frankenstein super AI that would control and destroy the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, sorry, go.
Yeah. So basically that was, so Kim talked about that, right? Okay.
They weren't able to do that, right? Like she was able to stop it.
Right.
Okay.
Another score, ground command, bad guys, 0. So
Okay. Well, we have a question here, and someone's asked, Sophia has asked, can you explain the difference between the old alpha system to the new one? Wasn't alpha pure light, God's system?
So please, I will definitely give you my 2 cents on this. However, please keep in mind it is based on the same things that you've heard. Okay. The alpha system, yes, there was the alpha, and then the contrary to that was the omega system. The alpha was the light side, and the omega system was the dark side. And these were dueling systems designed to keep balance, right? These quantum AI systems, quantum mapping systems, mapping everything, and everything with an electronic pulse of any kind would be connected to these things, and everything could be gathered. All information you can possibly imagine would be gathered, from the rate at which potatoes grew in 1412 to, what you're doing right now at your house, right? I mean, that is how fully integrated this was into everything, because everything has its own electromagnetic field. Everything does, right? And people don't always know this, but this stuff's been around for millions of years, but not longer, right? Okay, so the alpha system was very similar to what is currently now being called the light system, right? It would have been an asset. I mean, as far as the financial system goes, right? Just to be clear, uh, an asset. So the new light system is an asset-based trading system, and it's based on light energy completely. So everything that goes into it is from divine light source energy, and everything that it's used for has to be used for the light, right? Within Like, so in other words, you can't fund terrorist activities. You can't fund evil empires and organizations. You can't fund human trafficking. Its system will not allow it. Right now, also with the light system, there are no more government contracts of any kind. So the governments don't have any, there's no obligations to pay out the governments anymore. The governments will also not receive any allocations from the light system. And this is because they've been given every chance and they did not comply. Now, the alpha system was still, the way it was created, still had coding, from what I understand, that connected to the old system, the old monetary system. And the old monetary system was based on dark energy. So you had to bring in light, like life force energy, basically, and it would create credits. Those credits is what we used, and that would be based on a dark system. Dark energy, money would have to have some kind of dark purpose. You know, excuse me, that's kind of layman's terms, but that's how it's described.
Mm.
But the new light system doesn't require that. So before with the alpha system, there's still some things in the way, from what I understand. I think Kim completely reprogrammed any issues, got it all the way down to level 3 banking, but she had to get down to level 1 or money zero. And there were still all these programs in the banking system that would interfere. So instead of trying to eliminate them one at a time, she basically set up a brand new light system that's completely taken over the monetary system, including the servers. And this is based on solely light energy. And this goes directly to people. So where there used to be a custodian from the banks are now being turned into a service provider. So as a service provider, what that would look like is what it always should have looked like, right? The banks are paid a fee based on, okay, we're going to transfer $1 million. Okay, if the bank has to conduct that transfer, they would get a fee. The bank is going to hold money for this. They would get a fee, and that fee, from what I understand, if and I think this is right, it wouldn't come out of the money that's there from us. So all the money before would be paid for. Like, so if I had $1 million in there, maybe there's a 1% fee. So my $1 million would be minus that 1%. But I believe the way Kim has it set up now is that the light system actually would take it from the global repository. So the global repository would be paying the bank fees. So all banks would fall under the ultimate organization of the global repository, and they would pay fees. Now that's they'd pay the global repository would pay the fees, so that we wouldn't even incur the fees, and they will just be a service provider, or they will cease to exist. And
Wow.
so that's part of what's happening now. Now,
Hmm.
believe me when I tell you, I'm sure there's a million trillion other things to the light system that I don't know anything about.
Hmm.
So it's much more than that. That's the extent of my knowledge on it. Now, what I will say though, that this is really important because the I guess the banks have been getting run all over the place as well, right? So the same way everybody in the world, waiting for this minority of the super deep state, whatever operatives, right, that are running them all over the place, telling governments and everyone else to bring down money. You have to go to the military, the government, the banks, the this, the that, all these different things. And none of it's true. There's really if you want to bring money in, new money means new allocation numbers, and they don't have allocation numbers. They cannot distribute them. They cannot issue new allocation numbers. So they have to go to the global repository, which means they have to go to Kim Gogan. This is kind of the biggest taboo in the banking world right now. Actually, I remember when Kim introduced the key integrated monetary system, which, by the way, as far as tactical moves go to the deep state, just to how idiotic people are, right? While they were saying that they controlled this new system, they failed to realize that it's KIMS. In other words, it's Kim's. She actually, and she did it on purpose so they couldn't deny her name, right? Now, it's one of those things that, in my opinion, is like it's such a tag. Like, look, how can you say I'm not doing this when this is the system? Now, I can verify directly from the high tables at the Bank of London when they were asked, what is the KIMS system? What is the key integrated monetary system? And this was years ago. And this right when she had launched it, maybe 6 months after she launched it, they admitted, well, that's going to replace the SWIFT system. And the individual who asked the question was pulled aside and spoken to, like, do not bring that up, right? Because it was so taboo, right?
Mm.
And the Kim system was also somebody had told me this. I don't know if it was accurate, but somebody who programmed ATM machines said that KIMS came up as one of the options as well.
Wow.
So it's real. It's in the banking system. It's running the banking system, the key integrated monetary system that connects to the light system, right?
So, sorry, can I just ask you a question? So, just so I have this correct, the Kim system is connected to the light system. It's two different systems, or because, like, you don't know, or
I'm not sure. The key integrated monetary system is probably the face. Is what I would imagine. Like it'll end up being the face of the back office, but still forward in the monetary system, in the financial system. Um, I'm the light system is the ultimate, quantum mapping system now.
that's what I think it is. See, for me, I think it's everything. We're all connected to it, and it's not just in regards to pulling funds down and things like that. It's not, it's this is the new. How can we explain this? The light age. This is where it stems from. Is from that light system. For what I am, from everything that I know and things that I've heard, and that's just my interpretation to it. That I believe it's all connected. From there, we'll be able to activate our own med beds. We'll be able to activate our, every supplement that we need, be able to heal ourselves because it's connected directly to our creator, which therefore, in the very near future, we'll be able to heal ourselves. We'll be able to, have super amazing powers. I believe the alpha system, it was alpha system and what's the other? What is it called again? Alpha system and the omega system, correct?
There was the alpha omega. There was two different AIs, basically. Yeah.
And before that would be pumping out all these frequencies. There was all these curses and there was all these programs, correct, coming out from that system to humanity. And so now it's a whole different setup. So is it possible? Like for me, that's why I'm like, this is so exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I gave the little monetary piece because Kim just mentioned that on Wednesday.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, as far as I haven't heard her expound on it much further. I mean,
these are just my interpretations.
You could actually, and I would interpret it the same way, is that we are part of the light system already. We're already connected to it because we're light, right? Like we are life force. We're light energy.
Exactly.
And we're connected to the ultimate source, which is God or whatever you want to, the ultimate source, right, of everything. And so we're already connected to that. So yeah, it would make sense that, by extension, we are a part of the light system already. And the light system, I guess, is kind of a way to organize and manage different things within that. But I can't say with like I don't want to mislead anybody. Like, yes, that's what I believe it is.
However, no, this is where I'm like, no, I am adamant about this. Go check it out. It's UnitedNetwork.earth. You can go check out her situation reports and see for yourself. But I am certain that in January, at the start of January, she was saying to us, or even, look, I don't know, she said so many stuff since then, but she was saying that if you match the light system, you just have to match the light system. And therefore, you'll be able to do everything that she's able to do. So therefore, it's up to us to be able to connect to that or tap into that frequency. So that's why I'm like, no, she did say that. Which is
she just started the light system. She just in the past, I mean, that's just recent, within the past month or two.
Okay. Yeah.
So she might have said you can connect to the alpha system.
But this is where I think people are going to get confused. See, for me now, it's like, wait, I thought The alpha system now is called the light system because she had to create a new system because there was too many things in the alpha system. So she had to
So it's not. It's not just
transmute.
one. So the alpha system now is offline. It's or somewhere else entirely, and now it's just the light system. But they're two different. The alpha and the light system are different because the alpha system still had code in it that connected us to dark energy
That's right.
processing.
And so now that's gone.
So the alpha system is gone, but
Okay.
it's mostly the same code that's in the light system from
So
what I've
when Kim was saying, when Graham Command was saying before that we could connect to the alpha system, wouldn't that mean now that we can connect to the light system as long as we match
Oh
the
yeah, that,
frequency?
that part is absolutely true. That part is absolutely true. You know, she did say what you're repeating. She did say, she said, really, the power is in your hands, and she talked about us being connected, kind of to our bank accounts as well. Just to that was the
Mm-hmm.
context, one of the contexts she used. That it's a frequency. Now she did this back in 2018. She made it so the financial system was connected to your essence. So instead of your fingerprints or your eye print or your facial recognition, it was examining your essence. And I don't know. I think this is kind of the evolution of where that led to. Right
Okay.
now, it's our essence, energy, and consciousness that we can. And this is when she talked about removing those dark spots within ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the same couple of shows she did back in early January, and
Yeah.
she talked about that. How and I think that kind of should have started people down a path to
Exactly.
really examine and work on that
Yep.
and acknowledge, okay, wait, like, if I, I've said this for a long time, your rights are your responsibility, right? So a lot of times people will demand freedom of this because it's their right, but it's your responsibility to protect it as well, right? So
Mm.
part of our, it's our right to listen and hear and learn these things, right? But it's our responsibility to take action on them. So when we're given something like this, it's really powerful and important. Like, hey, examine yourself, look and see, like when something comes up, one of these dark spots comes up within your consciousness, your energy, your essence, look at it and identify, well, let me remove that and then replace it with the opposite, right? And it's the same frequency, right? So we do that all the time. This is a regular practice. Like I'm always doing this, like when I see it, and it definitely is. It definitely works, and I'm sure I can get better at it and do better with it. But that's something I see all the time. Just that you're getting rid of these different things that bother us, which kind of leads us into, well, here.
Well, the flow. I think. Oh, sorry. Go, Mr. Al.
No, go ahead.
I think it's the flow. So for this to be constant, it's an equal exchange. This is what it is now. What you put out, you get in. It's completely changed now. So this is where I'm like, when you're saying that, you were healing, you were doing all those, you were replacing it, and you were transmuting that word, whatever word came up for you, you would transmute it for the light, and you just, transmute all darkness to light, and then you would, replace it and then seal it off. Those things were these little, just these little obstacles, I guess you could say. However, it's our reality. So I feel like this is where I'm kind of like, that's where I'm very excited about this because we have the opportunity now to choose. We haven't had that ever, I don't think. For everything that Ground Command has been saying, it hasn't been in our control. Humans have been programmed, have been belittled, have been poisoned, have been so on and so on and so on. Now, for the first time, humans have the opportunity to really thrive if they choose to. I don't know. That's just a thought of mine.
I totally agree. And what does that look like? What does, imagine optimizing your health, reversing your age,
Mm-hmm.
fixing your eyesight for some physical
Mm-hmm.
example. And then what about emotional things that have dragged us down forever, right? Not being able to overcome. I'm constantly like looking at these things going like, oh, I didn't even know that this was something that was dragging me down. that I
Exactly.
a
Mhm.
personal belief that I had because of whatever, right? And looking at it allows you to kind of say, okay, I want to get rid of, or I'm getting rid of that, right? I'm getting rid of that. We're applying the mastery systems technique, right? You don't say want, right? You don't say wants. It's you either have it or
Well,
don't,
the
or
used to one,
choose it.
the old one, yeah. Not, yeah. Um, However, conscious language is really important as well. You know, what you're putting out there. You know, you've got to be careful with what you say, what you're saying, what you think you create. We're constantly always checking ourselves. And yes, you can have your little slip ups and things like that. However, what I really like, I would love to show. Do you have anything, first of all, before we go there, and we've just jumped around, before we go there, is there anything else that, stuck out about Kim's report, Grant Men's report?
I'll throw this out there just for anybody who happens to pick this up. She was talking about Chase Bank, right? That these operatives were, or whoever from Chase Bank, and she gave them these very strict guidelines, like Jamie Dimon cannot be part of anything, right, with Chase Bank, and she gave them some other specific requirements, including that she would put her own people on the board for Chase Bank. And so now I guess a bunch of bankers have showed up in Durango to, they want to get in on like negotiations because they're being run all over as well. And the next big payout, right? Because the cabal exists almost on imagination, right? They've had these big moments where they used to get paid out every single year, and the big day the whole world got paid out was July 4th, right? Not because it's Independence Day in America, but worldwide, all the cabal would get paid out. But they haven't been paid out since Kim first took the office and didn't know what her job was fully. She didn't fully understand that these were the bad guys yet.
And that was in
And
2012?
2012, right? So that's the last time. So the first, I believe she did put out an allocation of money then.
Okay.
And nothing was put out again until 2018. Now 2018. So in other words, every year they expect this money to come out. So now they're all ready to go for July 4th. It's all going to be okay. We're going to be, the evil Empire Kings again. Hoo-ha, right? So that's what they're all expecting. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why, because they haven't been paid out in 12 years. They have not been paid. They won't get paid. These allocations are not going to show up. And this is where all your government contracts would be. This is where directions were given from the alpha system, and everybody would do what the alpha system told them to do until Kim took the office. So when Kim started giving directions from the alpha system, they opposed everything because it didn't match their ultimate evil plans, right? Because they were used to doing other things. And they had instructions and orders that were kind of like long-standing orders. So in 2012, Marduk was still here. I believe he exited stage right in like 2015, 16, 17, in that range, right? But so basically, they would wait for instructions to come from the alpha system, and they would do whatever they were told, to start a pandemic, do this, do that, and money would come out to fund it. Like, hey, we're going to have a war in the Middle East, we're going to have a war in China. All these instructions would come out, and operatives would get their money, and they'd go out and it'd be distributed, right? And they make all this money off this in trading platforms and back way, and from like July to September, they would make all this money.
Mm-hmm.
So Kim made it a point to say no money is coming out. All this money would come out through the Federal Reserve, and it will not come out, and it would flood the financial system. And now, nothing else will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the last thing. I thought that was kind of important because every year, I've witnessed this several years, but every year we talk about this. They're waiting for their big payout. At what point do you stop and say, well, maybe I should do something different, right?
Mm.
And that's what we represent and you represent as the people. The people have got to do something different because anybody in these are not leadership positions anymore, right? No more than the captain of the Titanic was a leader as it sank, right? You're no longer a leader when something is gone, right? Like if something doesn't exist, you're not the leader of anything. So that's basically what these characters now, as governments are collapsing, financial institutions are collapsing, the world is on everything that we knew to be stable, functioning aspects of our world that were all suppressing us and hurting us. they're all falling apart. And there's the only solution to this is for, whatever's left to comply. But humanity is free. That's the fact of the matter is we are sovereign, and we are going to have to learn what it means to be sovereign. So,
So,
yes.
can I ask you a question for you? What would you think if you could give an explanation what sovereign means? What's your definition of sovereign?
Oh my gosh. I struggle with this question all the time, right?
Okay.
Because
Do you want me to?
Tui Loma Loma, who is a great guy, he's one of the tribal leaders in Fiji. He
Mhm.
has traveled the country teaching people, and other parts of the world as well, uh, teaching people what it means to be sovereign, right?
Okay.
And and he talks about these principles of the lessons that we have to learn to be sovereign, right? And what it really means, right? But being sovereign means that you are. I sum it up this way: you are responsible for you, and so you have to make decisions that are independent or conscious of who you are, what the role is that you play or desire to play, or what it is that you endeavor to be. And you have the right to make these decisions, but you are responsible for the decisions that you make. And when you realize the decisions you make, and what this does is makes you your own boss, right? Now, being your
That's
own
right.
boss,
Yeah.
you're responsible to find a way to make your own money, to to take care of your family, your responsibilities, whatever that is. Being
Well,
sovereign.
when you have a business and you're putting the hard yards in, I always said you're the lawyer, you're the accountant, you're the janitor, you're the secretary. You are everything. You cannot rely just on one person. If someone goes, they can't do their job, you need to be able to step in and the show goes on. So that's how I kind of see it as well, just like you. You just have to know that, you know, being sovereign, it's it's up to you. And that's what's so exciting about this, because I don't think anyone really knows how to, or not knows how to do it, but you just, when you have a business, you've had a business, you just know it's going to succeed if you put the effort in. Maybe not today, but you know that if you continuously be consistent and you put out a great product, and then you continually, show up and you send out those positive frequencies, those vibes that this is amazing. This is everything that you desired and want. It's just going to come through. You're just going to see it because you've put the hard yards in. That's how I see it as. Just like you.
But I don't know if I mean, this is where like sovereign is kind of something where it's like, one definition is like you're the supreme ruler, a monarch of whatever. That's the
Okay.
sovereign of sovereign nations, which none of which have been sovereign, really. They've all been kind of sub sovereigns, or uh, like not fully sovereign. On this planet, there is a definition for sovereign, which there's a sovereign leader, right? And that means the one who is in control, who has the authority. So, but Kim has been talking about this making us all sovereign, because in the system we were
Yeah.
registered as slaves. So we're going to be defining what it means to be sovereign by the way that we conduct ourselves moving forward, right? How we move from this moment forward will show the world and everybody and everything going on what it means to be sovereign. So that's kind of the you
I
know
just, yeah. I always hear people talking about, I'm sovereign, I'm the sovereign, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, do you know what it means? That's where I'm always like, you have to understand what something means for you to say it. For me, it's simple as that. I'm my own boss. So that's for me. I think everyone just is different. Because we don't want to be in control of it. Well, I don't want anyone in control of me. Like, we've done that for a really long time, and I think we've never been given the opportunity to really thrive until now. So, like, it's like, give humanities a chance to actually thrive without anyone trying to tell them, you have to do this. Because you would be surprised how many people would do the right choice. One of the things that, I've learned by hearing, you and Kim talking, is actually this was you about why, like, people that steal here in America, a lot of them, they steal diapers and formula.
Yeah,
It's not.
the top thing stolen from any place, top thing shoplifted are diapers and formula. Those are not
Okay,
people trying to, start a criminal empire, right? Those are people trying to feed
right.
their kids.
And a lot of these people just want to eat. They just want to succeed. Now, some people do it to be bandido, to be sneaky. But, majority of people, it's because they have to. Not saying it's right. I'm just saying that, those are the things that I kind of look at and go, well, how do we not know that they weren't? Because I remember Ground Command also discussing that they would, implant these things in people's minds to do certain things, to react a certain way. And I'm like, well, all these galactics and all these people upstairs, kind of like telling that humans are supposed to act a certain way. Well, in all honesty, no one's ever given humans an opportunity until now to actually, you know,
Thrive.
yeah, and think for themselves, do something different that, they've just taught us that we have to do business a certain way, but is it even ethical? You know, we have to start all over again. Like, there's a lot of things that need to be, they taught us a lot, which is great, but I do think that there's also things that need to change. And the only way it's going to change is the people actually doing those changes in their communities.
So
And then,
I used to have this discussion a lot. I used to get in this discussion a lot, and then there was a TED talk that actually came out that kind of supported what I've always said. Right, is there would be this argument that kind of like, why do poor people make bad decisions? It would say, right, and then what this TED talk talked about says, no, people make bad decisions because they're poor, not the other way around. Not poor people make it. They do it because they run out of options. Anyone, this is the hardest thing. You run out of options. It really stifles your ability to think creatively, to come up with a more intelligent way to approach any issue or problem. Right. This is part of the challenge that we face. So how do you shift that? Well, one of the things I've always said is, if people didn't have to worry about survival, right? If I knew these basic needs were going to be taken care of, would that allow me to jump to another state? Because I could focus on all the creative ways that I can make the world better. I could create on, focus more on taking care of my kids. If we had a one income family system, meaning this is what we used to have, right? Where one income could support an entire family, which is what we should have now, right? So even though wages have gone up, and women's wages, right, is a big one, women's wages have gone up. But really, what happens is, what has happened to kids? And well, now women's wages have gone up so that they can pay for daycare. And so now someone else is raising our kids, right? So what it should be is, we should be responsible to educate our children, right? Education isn't mentioned in the original founding documents of the United States, right, in the Constitution, but it was added by Carter and the Carter administration, right, as a way to control people. This is where you introduce standardized testing, right? So now we take everyone, we measure them by the same exact standard, which is ridiculous, because the world has different standards for everything based on what you're doing, right? You don't have the same standards in the music industry as you do in the construction industry. You couldn't measure things by the same standard. So it's ridiculous to measure people by the same standard, because people are going to express intelligence in different ways, right?
Mhm.
So that being said, you want to talk about quantum leaping? Jump into that
I
topic?
think we have a video to show.
All
So,
right.
I
You put
would
it
love
up.
to know what your thoughts are here. So, I'm just going to play it.
I made on quantum leaping went completely viral, where I explained to you step by step how you can quantum leap, and I got comments just like this one where people are saying that this is the best explanation on how to quantum leap that they have ever heard. And I decided to do a part 2 because I have so much experience on quantum leaping, changing timelines, manifesting anything that you desire. So here's the part 2, pay close attention. Welcome to today's quantum leaping class. So let's say that this whole field right here is the quantum leap. And you can imagine it to be so big, so huge, it's literally bigger than the galaxy. And now all possibilities that you can imagine are real. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to imagine them. So now you are here. Let's say this is your current reality. So this is right now. And now your future self, the person you desire to be, is somewhere here. So let's call this future self. So this is the version of you that already has everything that you want. Now, how do you make the jump? How do you make the quantum jump from here to here? I'm gonna tell you how. To understand this, you have to ask yourself, what is the difference between these two? So clearly, the difference is that this version of yourself that already has everything has a completely different reality. And this is because of their thoughts and their emotions. So I'm going to put this X where the little heart is. So their thoughts and their emotions are different from the thoughts and emotions that you have right now, of course. Because if this version is abundant, rich, has their dream house, their dream relationship, then they are perceiving different thoughts and different emotions than this version of you right now. So, of course, this version doesn't have any worries, not any of the worries that you have right now. Now, to make that jump, we only need to do one thing. And this thing is very simple, even though a lot of coaches here on TikTok try to make it very complicated. It's very simple. You have to change the things that are making you different from this version of yourself. And this is your thoughts and your emotion. Now, your thoughts and your emotion, they are making up your electromagnetic field. Because your thoughts are electric and your feelings are magnetic. So together they are forming this field, this electromagnetic field. You can also call it frequency that is always around you. And this version of yourself has a different electromagnetic frequency. Just like I said, because they have different thoughts, different emotions, different frequency, different electromagnetic field. So what you have to do is you have to tap into this electromagnetic field, right? Here, you have to tap into this frequency. Now, how you can do that is by assessing the thoughts and the emotions that this version of you has. Now, you don't have to do that 24/7 because I know life can happen, like situations, your environment can come in between. But just by doing this a few times per week for just a few minutes is enough to slowly but surely make like a little jump and then another little jump and then another little jump and another jump. So at some point, if you have done this often enough, where you tapped into this field, you are arriving here where this becomes your natural state. And how you can do this is by taking a few minutes out of your day, literally like 15 minutes are enough. For example, let's say 15 minutes every 2 days. So everybody who's watching this right now has 15 minutes every 2 days. This is literally less than cooking coffee, right? Like 15 minutes every 2 days. You are taking this time out of your day where you are doing nothing, and I repeat, nothing. You're turning everything off. You want to make sure that you are completely alone in your room. So you have to be alone, very important. And you close your eyes And then you start focusing on your heart. So the heart, it's also called the heart chakra. You have to open it in order to assess this field. You have to open your heart chakra. And by doing so, you are letting go of the negative emotions that are ruling your day on a regular basis. For example, you're letting go of regret. You're letting go of self-doubt. You're letting go of shame. So all these negative emotions that are stored usually in your heart chakra here, that you are dragging on through your whole day, are pulling your frequency down. And this is why you have to open this heart to be able to assess the elevated state. So first, you close your eyes, you start focusing on your heart. And you start thinking about the things that you're grateful for, right? Whatever it is, the water you're drinking, the food you are eating, the car you're driving, the house you have. So everything that you can imagine to be grateful for, you imagine it whilst focusing on your heart chakra. So you're focusing on your heart. And you do this very consistently. So now, at the moment where you can feel your heart, you can feel that there's like this tingling feeling in your heart, you start thinking about your future self, about your intention. So let's say you want to manifest money. So this version of yourself, it has so much money that it lives in a huge house, it's driving your dream car. So you start to imagine this scenario whilst focusing on your heart chakra. And now when you enter the brain-heart coherence, you are assessing a little tiny spot in this field. Because now, just for a few minutes, you are feeling and thinking like this version, and you are assessing this electromagnetic field. And this is where the magic happens. So you are picking a spot here and you're assessing it. And then 2 days later, you're doing the same. And then again, you're assessing it. And the more often you are doing it, the more little fields here you are assessing. And at some point, you have done it so often that you have adapted the electromagnetic field of this character, that it's so ingrained in your thoughts and in your emotions that you are not leaving the state anymore. And this is the moment where you have quantum jumped to this new reality. Follow for more.
Okay, so
Now that's manifestation expert. However, I'll post her video on our Telegram as well. So she has a bunch of other videos as well that are really cool. But I wanted to hear your thoughts. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about this video?
I think she presents it in a very super simple, comprehensive way, very effectively, actually. You know, uh, the idea that's the alignment of your thoughts and feelings. This is kind of universally recognized. If you can feel, feeling is the universe, the language of the universe, right? So the way I feel about something, right, you make matter. You literally create what you feel. And if you're able to consciously control the way you feel about something by kind of focusing on that, and when you focus on that, you focus on that reality, you can manifest things. I mean, you could do it instantaneously, actually, in some cases, right? Although some tasks are bigger than others. It made me a little sad to think about this. She said, imagine your future self and you have all the money you want. And she goes, and you have the exact house you want, the exact car you want. And I was just like, wow, that's like universally what we think of, like, oh, I have all the money I want and I have a house and a car. Like it's like the exact one I want. Like that's kind of, it's almost sad in a way that's what we kind of equate.
How
It's
is
just
it sad?
sad to me. I just kind of thought, no, it's true, and I totally get it. There's nothing wrong with wanting a nice house and wanting a nice car. I just kind of, believe me, I love both of those things, but I just kind of thought like, oh wow, that's kind of how we, that's
But
what we all think about,
But what about, and a lot of people do think about that because that's the first thing that they think about because it's going to relieve their stresses. That's going to make them happy. For me, I look at it as what if we looked at it as our future self already did it? Like we already have all the things we want. However, we're now in the past. So now we're going, like your future self has to tell you what, like, hey, listen, you're going to go through this. They're going to steal your company. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Let you know, like, you got to know.
Very specific. Yeah.
Not for you. What are you talking about? But anyways, no, my thing is, it's like, what if your future self can say, hey, listen, do this, do this, do this. And it's really just be in the moment, be happy, embrace who you are, shine, connect completely to your creator, and it will guide you to be who you're supposed to be, and everything else will fall into place. I don't know, like there's all different ways to see it. So I'm like, what if we could it's already happened. If we see it like it's already happened and just go, okay, I just need to pull it in. That's it. Do you get what I mean?
And that is the concept of quantum leaping or manifestation or visualization even. All these things are the same thing, right? And this is something actually a lot of people talk about this and they think that's too hard, or I can't do it, or I don't do it, or it doesn't work. I'm going to prove to you it works. I'm going to prove to you in a way that people will not like. I'm letting you know now.
Okay.
How many times have you got caught up in a negative emotion? In a negative emotion about something that didn't even happen yet? Worried about something in the future that might happen, to the point where you can make yourself sick about it, and then it does happen. Right? The thing you were so worried about, you got so stressed out about, you put so much energy, and you already felt the loss of what would it be like if this horrible thing happened. Now, people don't realize that's manifestation too. That's also a form of quantum leaping, right? Now, maybe that was easier to do before because we didn't have a light system fully activated, because we were mostly dark energy and being constantly transmuted and piled on by these programs that were just drowning us, right? With our lizard brain, our what is it called again? Reptilian cortex, right?
Yeah.
That it was constantly regulating. Every time we try to thrive, it would just pile on with negativity and sadness and whatever. So maybe that's why. However, the point is still the same. We obviously can do this. We can obviously do this just based on what we focus on. And it's interesting because a lot of people find it much easier to work themselves up into a frenzy about something negative, right? Like this is how it used to be. So if it was possible negatively, how much more so when we are creating the world and the existence that we've always wanted, that we tap into exactly how we feel. And I like what she said, right? Do it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do it because, finding somebody else who matches your exact frequency and wants the same things you do, that's hard, right? But just being by yourself, connecting with how you feel if something had already happened, as if it's already
living, breathing, seeing, being there in that moment. You are there. That is your present moment.
Yeah.
Like that's how I see it. It's like it's your present moment.
Absolutely. So I know I think about this kind of stuff all the time. I've manifested many things into my life this way. Just I remember we had a gospel band that I played the bass in the gospel band. I did not play the bass. And I announced to the Bible school I was part of. I said, we're going to start a band. I said, we don't have the resources. We don't have any instruments. We don't have the space. And we have no idea how to do it. I said, this is when God is at his best, right? And I meant it. I was fully confident. I mean, I put my face out there. I told everyone, this is what we're doing. Do you know, a month from that day, we played our first song live, and everybody had to learn instruments from scratch.
That's awesome.
It was terrible, actually, but it was great. and, and after that, we got pretty good. After that, we got pretty good. It took some time, but I played the bass for like 10 years live, 3 days a week. But even to this day, I'm an insult to any real bass player. Right? I can play those songs, like about 100 gospel songs I learned at that time. That's all I can play. But the point is, and I think I was 30 when I started playing, right? So kind of usually we think, well, if I'm going to start an instrument, you start it younger. But I got to play and I love that. I love being part of the music and the vibe and learning about it. And
Well,
but I could feel it before it ever happened. When I said it, I believed, I already felt like this is going to be great. I imagined and felt what it would like to be playing in part of a band, right? I had my own little, had my own little vibe of like how I would, how I would feel when I was playing. And that happened, right? That actually happened. So I know it's possible. I mean, I'm just using one silly
Well,
example.
I think the things that they've been blasting us, and the way they've been programming humanity is by making them believe that at a certain age you just stop growing. You're not a sponge. But I believe that that's something that's not true. We're constantly like children. Like I believe that if you have the mindset of no, I'm a sponge. Everything that I want to learn, create, whatever it is, I am like a child. I will soak it all in. And I think we've been taught as we get older and we become adults that that's just not possible anymore. And I don't think that's the case. So you just said like you learned a instrument at the age of 30. We're still babies. Like, didn't you say you promised me 888 years? So
That,
therefore, we're technically babies.
that's what I say. The human body is designed to last for 1,000 years. It just is what it is. I mean, look in the Bible. Like Methuselah was 963 years old. Adam lived to be 900 years old. This was very normal. There's a lot of people live a lot longer. They would live a lot longer lives then. They weren't limited by the same structures that we are now. But a big part of this is our collective belief that we're aging and that our lifespan is limited to a certain amount. But now, I mean, Kim described it this year. This is one of the most profound things she said. She said it twice on two different shows that she had a vision of hospitals, just people just getting up and walking out of the hospital from terminal disease and people just leaving the hospitals, right? In other words, some kind of mass healing event or shift took place. And I think that has to do with the light system. That the light system will allow us to access and say, I'm alive and I'm healing myself. And I like what you say, commanding your cells to play the part they're supposed to play in your body. Right?
Well, and rewiring your brain and commanding your cells, doing all of that is really important. The other thing that she did mention as well was that the program of aging, didn't she, get rid of that, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Apoptosis, programmed cell death is what she actually got rid of right now. Apoptosis is generally what happens in the body. And when cells, don't go through their normal apoptosis, they stay alive. Usually they become cancerous. But if a cell is able to stay healthy, yeah, I mean, so you replace every cell in your body every 7 years. So one of the big mysteries that's always come up is, well, why do we age then? Because every 7 years you're a brand new person, right? So this, I agree, connecting to your innocent child heart, right? Now, if like you look at a kid doesn't think they're ever going to die, right? Kids not afraid of anything either. They're just running through life like they. I remember watching my sons when they were little, and they were jumping on the bed, and they just started walking off the bed, right? And they were because they were little. They were like 1 year old. They were so confident that I would be there to catch them that they had just walking right off the bed, like no, like it's like well, you know, like, that's how confident they were. Just like I'm like oh, and of course you catch your kids, you don't let them walk off the bed, right? But like there's something about that innocence and that confidence that I admire, I appreciate. I always look at this with babies, and the way that a crying baby literally evokes a response in the mother, Right?
And that's exactly how we should be with our creator. Just walk and know that no matter what, you'll be fine. I'll catch you. Just like what you just said. Technically, I like to say, they're my boss. But also, father could be whatever you want to call it. This divine light source energy running through us will always be there. And I know that, we spoke about this, how it's like, well, why did this so-called divine or creator God do this to us? And it's like, well, how would anyone have the opportunity to stand up and rise if this didn't happen? What if we all kind of just said, you know what, we're all going to come down for this moment. We're going to live through all of this because, this is the best time. This is the best shot we've got. And let's just give it our last shot because this is the only reality, correct? And for what Kim states is that it's the timeline. What did she say? We're on the correct timeline. And it's the timeline that.
Yeah. So to clarify what you're saying, this that's a big topic that maybe we'll talk a little bit more next time because I think that's a real no, that was great. So what you're referring to is what people will often refer to in quantum leaping. There was these layover matrices of sorts, and there was over 10 million different versions of existence. So every possible choice you made had created a different version of existence. And there was 10 million different versions that you could jump to, right? That's my understanding, right? And all of them were basically false. But now that system has been eliminated. So there's one reality and we're living in it. So where you are now is your reality. But the difference, to your point, is now we can change this reality.
Exactly. That's why with the video, I do agree with a lot of things that she was saying. It's just I in my head will interpret it a different way so my mind can understand it better because there are some things I don't agree with of the words she used, and we're not going to get into the minutia because I think that's what people are like, no, wait, that's not there anymore. It has to be done this way. No. I'm like, just breathe. Like, take what you need, leave the rest. Just do that. Not everyone is the same. They understand things differently. But I feel like this video, it was able to show me a little bit more. Go, oh yeah, that sounds good. I think that's something that many people can learn from and put it in their own words and do what they have to do to get to where they need to be. Because that's what it is. It doesn't matter how you get to your destination. The main thing is that you get there. And I think that's what we're on now. We're in this amazing time and it's exciting. It's, it's a little bit nerve-wracking as well. It's like, what do we expect? What do we do now? This is why we started talking about this because we're like, we want to know what are your suggestions and how can we create this, this world that we want? Because I feel like we did and then, it just wasn't the time. And now I feel like it is the time, we can do this. So I know that we go into a lot more other things, but I just thought these were just some stuff that we can talk about on another time.
On another time. We are actually working with some amazing people, and I didn't ask for permission to share their names, so I'm not going to. But to actually bring about some change now, and in a great program to provide. To address an issue with foster kids, a lot of times foster kids go from home to home and they carry all their stuff in garbage bags, right? So as a way to not talk about that yet is what I've been told. Not talk about that. I'm just saying that we're doing some stuff that I'm really excited to talk about, but I guess I'm not going to talk about it now.
It's a great idea that these people have come together with this amazing idea that shortly we are going to express to the public. But at this time, there's things being put into place, Mr. Rao. So
it's not my job to keep secrets. I'm letting you know right now. Okay. That's not my job anymore. So
Anyways,
if
Mr.
you tell me something and I'm excited about it and I believe in it, I'm going to tell other people. So it is what it is. So needless to say, look, we got a lot of people stepping up to bring their ideas forward and try to, really not to try to organize and work collectively towards a better world, which is what we are all about. So with that being said, we appreciate everybody being out here. Laura, thanks so much for everything that you had to say today. We are going to do a Q&A at what time after this? And what?
Yeah, just we'll put the link on and then just give us like, a little 2-minute break and then we'll see you on Zoom.
We'll see you in about 15 minutes, okay? We'll see you in about 15 minutes. But everybody, thanks so much for joining us here and share this with your friends. And we're going to keep this energy going as we begin to start activating programs all over the world and work with people in a better way. My name is Stefan Rao. That's Laura. And let's go change the world.